football player compounds all those things. I thought they handled the pressure and the environment of that well. I would expect both of them, as well as Legend, who played a fair amount, to improve as the season goes on. You would like to have more game experience under your belt before you're playing the teams that we're opening with, but that's the way it is. That's the schedule, so you got to go play.
And how was it for you? This was your first game as the coordinator without having a position group. You just oversaw the whole thing. Do you feel good about the way you called the game, about where the defense is in general right now?
Yeah, I think that you always, after a game, that's self-evaluation is the first thing that you do. What could you have done better? And I think that we have a laundry list of things that we need to do better and improve on. I would like to think that in critical moments we handled some things really well. I really would like to compliment the staff. We got some formation and personnel groups that we had not seen, and I thought they did a phenomenal job of coming up with answers and communicating that with the players, and really Larry, Matt, and Al did a really, really good job with that, both on the sideline, at halftime, making good adjustments.
Second row middle, Dave.
Hi, Kerry.
Hi, Dave.
As far as tackling is concerned, how much can you work on it in practice? I imagine that's a tough balance where you want to work on tackling, but you don't want to get your guys banged up.
Yeah, you have to work on it. We have to improve, and so we have to work on it. We tackled yesterday. We'll tackle today. It's harder because tackling drills are different than tackling in real scrimmage or games, and those are where you run the risk of injury. When you've got 11 people, 22 people all coming toward the ball, and people are flying around, and that's hard. At the same time, we do need to tackle better, so we'll continue to work on it fundamentally, and worked on it, like I said yesterday. We'll work on it again today.
You faced a big physical veteran offensive line last time, same thing this week with Oregon. Do you expect again that they might throw something at you that they haven't done, kind of like Minnesota did with throwing 7 linemen up there at times?
Yeah, well, I don't know that they would do that necessarily, but I think that they will have plans based on what they think are going to be the strengths of their offense versus what they saw from us on Thursday night.
Right next door, Doug.
Hi, Doug.
Hey, Kerry. You guys got home on a blitz right there at the end of the first half. I think you blitzed 2 linebackers and got a sack to snuff out that last drive. I don't know. It didn't feel like you guys did that a ton. Just generally when bringing pressure, you guys often have a front 4 that can get after it. How do you sort of view when you might call a blitz?
I think it's all predicated on what the offense gives you in down and distance situations. I think we have a great 4-man rush, and so you would prefer to do that as much as you possibly can. I think that this was a team that would run the ball on any third down, 3rd and 8, they would run the ball, and so that kind of limits some of what you may do from a pressure standpoint. I think those are game plan specific more than anything, Doug.
Right behind him, Dan.
Kerry, Ryan had said after the game that you guys want to play a lot of depth, but you also might need to look at, do we need more continuity at certain positions? Do you agree with him that, kind of as the season goes along, you might need to narrow that rotation down a little bit?
Well, first of all, he's a head coach, so of course I agree with him. But I would tell you absolutely, we're still finding our way, and we're still figuring out exactly who the best players and the best combinations and the best situations are. And so the only way to do that is to get some game experience. And so we played a lot of guys who deserve to play, guys who have worked hard, got themselves prepared, and we have a saying around here, some do, some don't. And so as we continue to go forward, those that do will do more, and those that don't will do less.
How do you strike that balance going into a game like this where, hey, we're playing Oregon, it's one of the biggest games of the year, but it's still game 2, we're still learning who we are? Yeah,
we have to put the best players on the field to help us win the game, and that is exactly the strategy that we would take going forward for Saturday.
Third row right, Tony.
Kerry, you've recruited a lot of corners, very talented corners. Did you ever think you'd start a true freshman here at Ohio State?
No.
And what did Denzel do to earn that for?
He had a really good spring, so we knew we had something. Had a really good off season, and he continued to play, all through training camp. He continued to line up and play man-to-man against some of the best receivers that you will ever see, and he competes. Got a lot of growth and a lot of improvement ahead of him, but he had a great camp. He had a good night Thursday night, and we're looking for more of those in the future.
Do you see him staying in that rotation if you get a full complement of cornerbacks back?
I think that the kids that are capable of playing and deserve to play both physically and how they perform will play. And I've always believed in that. I've always believed in a fast, fresh player is better than a tired one. And we've got good depth, and we're going to play players that can make plays. So, yeah, I would expect him to be in the rotation.
Over here to the far right, Jeremy.
Kerry, with apologies to the fabulous Thunderbirds, do you think you guys are like tough enough on defense? Do you feel it as a whole unit that they're mentally tough enough?
Yeah.
I mean, is there a way you quantify that, or that you have seen it go from January to now?
Yeah, I think physically, I think it starts with a certain physicality. I think you have to be physical here because practice is very physical, and it's an offensive line that is a very physical group, as well as a great physical group of running backs. Our wide receivers block well, so physically you have to be tough. And I think these kids have come through some incredible situations over the last 2 years that would, I would say, speak volumes about their mental toughness. And so I have no concerns about their mental toughness.
One of those guys, Court Williams, who's obviously been through a lot more than a lot of the other guys have been. How close was he to being ready to go against Minnesota? And was it just a situation where the field maybe being wet and inconsistent was holding him back, or what? Yeah,
he's very close. I think he had a few setbacks along the way in training camp, which limited some of his reps and some of his opportunities for great practice reps, and again, that game in that environment is not necessarily when you want to get your real first live bullets. And so, again, he's preparing very, very well. I look forward to having him out there on the field in the near future.
Second row left, Stephen.
Kerry, I think when we asked you last year about maybe playing some young guys, obviously a different scenario, but you were real adamant on not playing true freshmen because when they make mistakes at corner, it leads to 6 points.
Yep.
So I don't know, when you're down 7, you're down Cam, you kind of have to play Denzel at that point. I mean, are you nervous at all? How are you feeling going into that situation? Because it's one thing to say a kid has a good camp when you know he's in a rotation versus he's the starting corner for you day one.
I think I would say this. The other guys always find the freshman, right, first. We had long conversations about that the guy on the other sideline wearing a headset knows who the freshman is. So you better be ready because they're going to come after you. And we talked long and hard about that. He doesn't strike me as a player in any practice environment that has shown fear, which is huge. I talked to him at length about being nervous, and he said he was, which I was glad to hear, because if he said he wasn't, he'd be lying, which would be a much bigger problem. And being nervous just means it's important to you. And it was important to him to play well. So to me, it was a great opportunity for him to go out there and play. But I would tell you this, when you line up and play against the guys we play against every day, that prepares you at the corner position. You're going to get prepared because if you make a mistake here, they're going to score on you. And so that I think is the best preparation of all.
And Legend, the touchdown they had on him, I mean, was that good coverage and just a good throw?
Yes.
Okay.
We would like, there was one little push, and it was Legend, which created separation. We would like to not create separation there, but he did have his hand in the right place at the finish of the play, but it was a good throw and a good catch, and sometimes those things happen too. We'd like to have them happen less than they did Thursday night, but yeah, I would tell you that I thought Legend played well.
Got time for just a couple more folks. Second row left, Bill.
Kerry, back in the spring, Matt Barnes said that Denzel was impressing him with kind of just how naturally corner came to him, considering he hadn't played it very much in high school. When you guys were recruiting him and evaluating him, what do you look for in a guy who's kind of mostly an offensive player and when trying to determine that he's going to play defense?
Speed first. If they can run, they have a chance. And then do they block? If they're playing wide receiver, are they afraid to go throw their face in there and knock people around? Do they compete really hard and really well? And then, there was enough corner tape on film. We weren't taking a blind leap that this was a guy that was going to be able to play. But he just didn't have the same level of experience as some of the other guys have had. But he took right to that from the minute he walked on campus in January. And I think that helped him to have that extended time in January, February, March, preparing himself for spring ball and then having a good spring.
As you guys are still kind of, working through the guys you can rely on, How much more difficult is that when you're playing an opponent like Minnesota, who's like making you use your goal line front at the 50-yard line?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that they did a nice job of changing personnel groups and giving us things that we had not seen before and all that kind of stuff. And I thought it took some time to get adjusted to and get the right guys on the field for the jobs that they had at hand. I think the flow of the game, that makes it a little bit more difficult if you're coming on and off the field than if you're lined up and you're playing and you get 5, 6, 7 snaps in a row, as opposed to run to the sideline, come back in for the next play, go back out. Those are hard things, but they're necessary things when people change personnel groups like that.
Right next door, Nathan?
Trump Vincent starting over Haskell Garrett at the start of the game the other night. I guess just what kind of went into the thought process on that rotation on the interior defensive line, and do you expect that to be how it plays out?
I think that, first of all, Coach Jay is 100% in charge of the personnel in his group, as are all of the position coaches. I think that rotation is important for all of us and figuring out how those things go. And I also think the length of training camp and amount of snaps guys were able to take based on injury or things that helped them out, all of those things made a difference. But I would tell you that I thought Teron also had a very, very good camp and had worked himself into a great spot and earned that opportunity.
And what did you guys like about Tommy Eichenberger so much to put him in the spot to start?
Well, he's smart. Got us lined up in the right calls. He had taken a ton of snaps in camp, and he could. He's a physical kid for a physical game, and that's what that was. And so he was the right guy for that ball game.
And final questions, third row right, Tim.
Yeah, a couple of quickies.
Hi, Tim.
How you doing, man?
Great, thanks.
When you looked up on that 2nd and 2, I'm not going to give you specifics. Say y'all had gotten the interception, got called back and stuff. 2nd and 2, you line up and there's 4 linebackers as the quarterback's looking at, left of the quarterback, left of the center there. When you watch that on video, do you cringe? I mean, what was just sort of, was that just a comedy of errors or just the way they flowed those guys in and out, those 7 super jumbo personnel? Did it get you, you know what I mean? At that point in the game, it's kind of a critical moment. Just what did y'all decipher from that?
Well, what I would tell you is that the volume of formations and changes they made with those personnel groups were challenging for our guys in the midst of the battle, and to go from a first down with this personnel group to a second down, and frankly they were running their guys on late, and we're trying to get the right guys based on who are they putting in on the field and lined up with a call. And so I'll take full responsibility for any of those situations that were challenging for our players, based on stuff that they had not been exposed to and having to get lined up and try to play hard and play fast, and that was very challenging.
Yeah, and the other thing, give me that play in spring or preseason where Denzel Burke, you just made a mental note of it. Hey, this guy, he can play.
Yeah, when he lines up and he goes against Chris, and you see that, because Chris and Garrett can do so many things to any defensive back in one-on-one situations and one-on-one environments. When he lines up there against those two guys and he's able to handle it, and he's reasonably unflappable, even if they beat him, that's when I wouldn't say there was a play. He got his hands on a lot of balls the first time we scrimmaged. We had a lot of PBUs and he had a bunch of them, and but I think that it's the day in and day out of the lack of fear of going against the very, very best players and the ability to, frankly, to compete with them, and he does a good job.
But do you look at him differently now than you did a week ago, since he played competently? I mean, at least competently. I mean, do you have a different feel about him now?
Well, I think, no, I'll be honest with you, I expected him to play well. I think that it would have been disappointing had he not. And so I don't think I look at him any differently. I'm trying to figure out how to help him get better for this week.
Thanks, Coach. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, you guys have a good day. Thank you.